Yo, yo, yo. That's how you always start out. Yo, yo, yo.
Yo, yo, yo. We're back.
Season
Marathon
2. Right?
Season 2. Yes, we're back. Marathon Minute is back. We apologize for the long wait, but we learned a lot in season 1. How to be more consistent with releasing episodes, the timing with production, editing, promotion. It's a grind. We are a small business. We both have day jobs. You know, it may surprise you given the quality of our pods that this is not our full-time job, but we are very passionate about this. And if you are listening, we thank you guys. This is something that we care a lot about, and we're really excited about season 2.
Yeah, and let's not shortchange ourselves. Season 1, we had 21 episodes.
Yeah, well, we had 20 official guest episodes. We threw in some bonus episodes here and there, so a little over 20. But yeah, we produced a lot of content for season 1.
And our episodes are not short. We have a lot of content, like you said. We dive in deep with our guests.
Yeah, I think we are quality over quantity type of people. And so one of the things that we've been doing during this long extended off season is recording more episodes. So we have some episodes waiting to be released so that we can release on a more consistent basis for you guys. We also are still reaching out to some really exciting people that are coming down the pipeline for the pod this year. It's just a really exciting time for Marathon Minute. You know, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you. We're now on YouTube. We've got upgraded microphones. We've still got our Cafe Fanny sponsor. I'm feeling a little hungry right now, actually.
Oh, a little afternoon snacky?
Yeah, there's just nothing like it.
What do you got there? Oh, that's Fanny.
We got some. You can hear the crunch. Yeah, that's why we got the microphone.
You know, there's a rule: you shouldn't chew or eat with your mouth open or podcast with your mouth full.
I'm trying to promote Cafe Fanny.
I know.
You know, you hear the crunch, the organic. What is that?
Oats and grains.
Oats, chia seeds, grains, the good stuff. But yeah, we are still sponsored by the one and only Cafe Fanny, best granola in the game.
We got Fanny and Cranny, the cran coconut.
Gang's all here.
Yep.
But let's get a little bit into our first guest, Warren Creavalle. Warren is currently an art director at Gray in New York, a very prestigious ad agency.
Yep.
Following an 8-year MLS career where he played for Houston Dynamo, Toronto FC, and Philadelphia Union. Not to mention, he has his own brand, Creavalle, and he also has a brand with his wife, Coffee and Creavalle.
Yeah, highly successful in the professional soccer world.
Yeah.
High draft pick, great college player.
Won a Supporters Shield.
Yeah, great
very impactful player, and now he's moved on to do some amazing things in another industry. There's really no better way to kick off season 2. This is someone who, it's really a full circle episode for us. I don't want to give away too much of this story because I think I shared the story like first 5 minutes of the podcast. But long story short, my dad saw Warren in a GQ article and sent it to me a few years ago. And I was really interested in this guy and his story. And then fast forward a couple years later, we made a connection, and Warren is on the podcast. He's someone who went from MLS athlete to art director. He's someone who I've listened to him on a podcast. I've connected with him on Zoom before, and the way he speaks about what he does and his interests and kind of the way he approaches not only being an athlete, but being more than an athlete with his passion with design, fashion, curating an aesthetic.
Yep.
It really just spoke to me. And it was a privilege to sit down and talk with him for an hour. And I think you guys are really going to like this conversation.
And let's not gloss over the fact that I was reading GQ, right? What's that all about?
Yeah, I was a bit shocked. Maybe
sort of,
you thought it was a Sports Illustrated or something.
Yeah. Anyhow, it is kind of cool to go from reading a GQ article about someone.
A GQ.
Okay.
We should make our own GQ magazine of stylish Jews.
Yes.
GQ.
I meant to say it's pretty cool to be reading a GQ portrait of someone, a profile, and then about a year later, have him on our podcast.
Yeah.
And he proved to be a great guest. And I love the fact that, and this is not the first story like this, but the highly successful athlete who transitions to something really as different can be, right? From playing soccer on a field to having his own business in terms of clothing and kitchenware and lifestyle stuff.
Yeah, Warren is doing a lot of things. He's someone who I think you guys will really just be interested in his story, his perspective, his journey to get to where he is. Yeah. And it'll be amazing to see what's next for him and follow him on this new chapter of his career.
And he was a fun guest, right?
Oh,
He was very upbeat. We got him in a great mood. He was very enthusiastic about both talking to us and about, promoting what he's done in his life. And it was fun. I enjoyed talking to him. It was one of those podcasts where after we shut down the mics, I turned to go, that guy was fun. He was great. I enjoyed him.
Yeah. We had fun interviewing Warren. I think you guys are going to have fun listening to him. So let's kick off season 2. What do you say, Dad?
Season 2. They never said we get to
They didn't say we were going to come back.
They disrespected us.
We're back.
Show them season 2, Marathon Minute, boy.
Let's go.
Out of the hot tub.
All right. Without further ado, let's get to first episode of season 2, Warren Creavalle
on Marathon Minute.
Let's go. That's classy.
Oh man, how embarrassing.
We are at the
Was that intended, Warren?
Welcome to the 2022 MLS Rookie Symposium. This is your host, Max and Michael Ornstill.
There you go.
Yes, I spoke on a panel for some of the Young Bucks.
Nice.
That was the last time I was on Zoom.
Damn. Well,
I'm on Zoom every day. My job has converted. I used to meet with people in an office every day. And for the last 2 years, I've been staring at a Zoom screen. It's very different for an old dog to learn a new trick.
Well, I hear it, man. I mean, felt like I was on Zoom nonstop, 2020, just talking to people, meeting, and just that was the way of the world. And now with my job now, I mean, similar, it's just Microsoft Teams, but
It's the era of video chat, honestly.
There are some side benefits, Warren. I'm a guy who for the last 40 years put on a suit every day, and I never liked it.
Don't miss it, huh?
Yeah, no, I don't miss it. I because I hold meetings, I wear a tie and a dress shirt, but I haven't worn long pants in 2 years.
Oh man, how does that feel? I've heard a lot of people like saying that, like, business up here, but down there it's a party. Even people on TV.
There's a total party going on below my waist.
Has made expertise of that. It's this guy right here. Well, first of all, thank you for doing this. Welcome to the pod. This is a big privilege for us. And honestly, I have you to thank possibly for having you on the podcast, because I want to,
you being me.
Yes, you, my father. I want to tell a little story before we really get into you and your story, because that's why we're here. We're here to talk about you, Warren. But before that, I want to talk a little bit about kind of how we got here. I think sometime in 2021, this was, I don't know, I think middle of my last season in Portland. My dad sent me the notorious GQ article about you that we actually talked about at length on that Zoom, which you kind of debunked. But my dad sent me that article a couple years ago. I was like, hey, thought you might think this is cool. Obviously, he knows my interests in fashion and creative things. And so he sent me that, read the article. I'm like, wow, it's a cool guy, cool story. And that was kind of it at the time. And then fast forward.
Oh, that's tight. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah. No, I read the article and said, we gotta, this is a guy you need to talk to, Max. This is your kind of guy.
Yeah, but this was before the podcast.
Yeah.
This was just like, I'm in Portland. He knows I'm into creative things. Was involved with People on Mars at the time, but like nothing really past that. And I was like, oh yeah, dope article. This guy's dope. And that was kind of it. Fast forward a year later, or whenever you were on Amobi's podcast, shout out to Amobi, our first guest on the show, actually.
Yep.
I check out his episodes, and I saw you were on, and I'm like, oh, I know this guy. I read an article about him. Listen to your podcast, and this is actually unique because there's been a few. I'm a big podcast guy, and obviously there's a lot of great podcasts out there, but there's been a few podcasts where I listen to someone and it's like, I really feel like it's hitting a different part of my brain. Like I'm really like what you said really resonated with me a lot. Just a lot of your interests, kind of your thought process, and the fact that you connected with Amobi, I'm like, oh, that's one connection away from me, because I know Amobi pretty well. And so I was like, shoot or shoot. I'm going to shoot you a DM, follow you on IG, and see if we can maybe connect. And it took a little while, but you got back to me on the DM, and which is all good because you're a busy man. And we hopped on a Zoom and we talked for like 45 minutes. And again, it was similar to that podcast where I felt like so much of what you said just really resonated differently than other conversations I had, just based on your interests, kind of your trajectory with your career and what you were moving into. And that was kind of a great connection for me. And now, full circle, you are on our podcast, and it is, it's just pretty crazy, honestly. Like to think a couple of years ago, yeah, for real. Like a couple of years ago, I was reading an article about you, had no idea who you were. And now 2 years later, we have you on the podcast, and it's a privilege to learn from you, to talk with you, and to share your story, because I think your story really resonates with people like myself. And I think there's a whole generation of people my age, but also people a lot younger than me that have our interests, who are athletes, who are creatives. And your story it does inspire them, inspires me. So I'm hyped we have a limited amount of time, but just share your story, pick your brain a little bit, and just have a good time chopping it up, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, man. We're, more similar than different in a lot of respects. So, I'm happy to be here. I think what you guys are doing is really dope. I've seen you getting your model on for the pie, you know what I'm saying? Like, I respect what you're doing. Like, it's all fire. So I'm happy to be here, man. I'm super inspired.
Appreciate that.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. I like to start from like the beginning. Let's rewind. Young Warren as a kid, growing up. I read that you were into fashion as a kid, but obviously you're a pro footballer. So your life kind of revolved around soccer, obviously, but you had other interests still as a kid. I don't want to reference this GQ article that much, but like, I do think there's a couple like interesting nuggets in it. So you mentioned you were like looking at pieces at Wish as a kid in Atlanta, and that kind of opened your world up. Could you just talk a little bit about how you were a kid interested in soccer, and then you start looking at pieces at Wish, and how did that kind of open your world up? How did that change things at a young age?
I think growing up, kind of where I did outside of Atlanta, I think clothes, fashion, I guess, and just self-expression through style, I think was kind of a central focal point at my school, at least, when I was in high school, Soulja Boy and Franchise Boys, they were all hot, all you needed was a white tee, right? And you were good. You just had oversized white tee, some baggy jeans, Jabos, if you can find them.
Yep.
And, some Filas or some knockoff J's, most likely, Air Force Ones, and if you didn't have that stuff though, like it was like, yo, like, what's this guy doing? I think I was into it, but I also kind of was looking past a little bit how to put my own spin on it. How do I match these colors differently? Match the shoes, and I think that was kind of my starting point into like really taking, self-expression through clothes a little more serious. And then when I got my driver's license, I was obviously a little older and, can start exploring the city a bit more. And one of my friends told me about this shop downtown called Wish. And I got there and I was like, yo, like, we've been doing it wrong.
Yeah.
I'm seeing Nike SB stuff that I never seen before. I'm seeing, the hundreds, 10 deep, all these different rare exclusive, sneakers that I've never seen before. And it just really kind of opened up my world. And, I'm doing this with, some friends, just going on expeditions, and just living life. That was it.
Yeah, the problem with being young and having a good fashion sense is that when you go to a store like Wish or wherever, you see stuff that you want and is beyond your reach, right? Financially,
sure.
It's expensive stuff. What did that feel like?
Man, I'll tell you what. So, probably my senior year? Yeah, all of my senior year, I got a job at Finish Line. So literally all of my money went towards like three things: lunch, sneakers, and gas money. That was like
Essential. That's the essentials right there.
Yeah.
That's
You're not the first person we've talked to who's had this sort of similar story of having, a fashion sense and a desire to, care about what they put on their body and how they looked, and people getting jobs for the sole purpose as young people, right? In high school, of getting a job just so I can go out and spend that money on, stuff that I want to wear on my feet, on my body.
And once a week, a little, $10 cover to get into the teen club. That's all I needed.
You guys had teen clubs.
Yeah,
damn,
man. It goes past just the fashion. You had to show up to that proper. You had to show up correct.
The culture. Yeah,
facts.
Man.
Do you remember the first thing you bought at Wish? Like that elusive item that I finally got?
First thing that I bought?
Maybe you don't.
I remember the first thing that I wish I got. There was like this dope Nike SB cardigan. It was like gray and blue. And I remember like cardigans were kind of cool at the time. Urban Outfitters was really popping, or had really started to pop. And they had like, they kind of an array of that, but this one was different. It had Nike on it. It was, like a little loose, and I didn't get it. I came back and it was gone once I, got a couple dollars up. But I think the first thing I did get was this polka dot CDG wallet that I still have.
Damn. Okay. Good
still
taste.
Have it. Wow.
Good taste.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I fuck with that. Okay. Let's fast forward a little bit. Obviously, I'm assuming similar to me, you had these interests, but soccer was kind of still the priority. That was a vehicle for you to play in college. And when you were younger, did you have the dream to play professional soccer? Or what was your career aspirations as a kid?
Oh yeah, for sure, man. I think, as young as I could remember, that's what I wanted to do. I remember going through some rough patches, particularly like middle school where, like body changing, you got Oscar sliders and shit. And like, I suck at soccer now, and, kind of get over that, getting into high school. All right, I'm good again. And like, kind of getting back on track with, what I want to do. All right, step one, I want to get a scholarship, make these different ODP teams, region team, get in the national pool, getting, some camps if I can, get to residency, never got there, but, that was, kind of the jumps that I wanted to make. And, ended up getting a scholarship to Furman University in South Carolina. And
a very good sports school, really good sports programs there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And I think that's kind of where I really locked in the focus of going pro. I think we had a really good recruiting class, and my roommate at the time, he was in the U17 residency program, and I remember meeting him and playing with him. Like, man, this is the best player that I've ever played with, and it was just so effortless. His name is Chris Clue. You might have crossed paths with him in Portland, maybe.
It sounds super familiar. I think I might have.
Yeah. And a left back, ambidextrous, just it was effortless for him. And
Yeah.
I remember him like really pushing me, because he was just better than everybody, right? And I was like, nah, I'm on your ass, like, So if I went out then like one night, the next day, even if we're on the field, like one-on-ones and like, just training, like just hungry and wanted to get after it, and made my first U20 camp in Spain. And I remember that moment, like, all right, like I think I can do this. I'm playing against Real Madrid's youth team, and these different clubs that are amazing, and just being in this environment with these elite other kids, just really showing me like, okay, like I think I can make the jump.
Yeah. At what point was it kind of a reality? I mean, obviously you were drafted by Houston, but kind of before that, were you like, okay, I'm for sure. At what point were you like, oh, I'm for sure going pro, and that's going to be my career for the next, I don't know how many years, but I don't need to worry about whatever my interests are outside of soccer, because this is about to be my career for the next few years.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think, the story is my sophomore year. Like I had a, solid freshman year, but my sophomore year, I just remember like the feeling of like everything clicking on the field, and it got really, really easy. And I was like, okay, like this soccer thing, like I can do this. Which ironically, I think, I was also, just exploring the world more and like going places with my friends, especially in the spring, making these road trips. And both of those things kind of led me to leave Furman, to transfer to University of Central Florida. Okay. And, I just knew, I was like, I can go pro from anywhere. I think like, I don't need this program, that I wasn't really enjoying. Soccer wasn't going great either. Like our team wasn't winning. Yeah. I didn't like the school. I was like, I want to be in an experience that I enjoy, and I know my game will take me to the next level. Yeah. Let me just, get somewhere where I want to be in case the soccer's not going well, right? And I got to UCF my junior year. I was an All-American, and that put me on, the Herman watch list for my senior year. Caught a couple injuries, but still ended up having a, solid season and going to the combine. And, I just loved living there. The campus was amazing. I had no complaints off the field. School was easier.
Yeah.
So it was it was the first time where I had like clarity, I think, on, a move that I wanted to make, and it was a big jump, and I trusted myself, and it ended up panning out.
Yeah, no, it definitely did. Something I want to kind of not focus on, but talk about with you is this idea about identity, because that's something that we talked a lot about when we caught up on that Zoom, but also just some of the parallels that I see in us is that you're someone who has a lot of other interests outside of soccer. And that's something that I see in myself. But at the same time, I think we were very similar in that time in college where our mindset was we want to go pro, and we're willing to develop however time, energy to get to that point. And let's fast forward a little bit. Once you go and get drafted and you're in Houston, I read, it's funny that they quoted Kalen Carr in that article, because shout out Kalen. We're supposed to have him on the pod soon as well.
Go Bears.
Yeah, go Bears.
My guy.
He talks about how you would go out and start looking at fabric while you were in Houston, and you were, starting to explore that side of you while you were in Houston. Mm-hmm. How long did it take you to kind of get comfortable or get to a point where you're like, okay, I know what I need to do to handle my shit on the field. Like, I'm a pro, I can perform. Now let me go pick up some fabric, explore some opportunities and doing some other stuff outside of soccer, because I don't think that's a common thing for young players in the professional game.
Yeah.
So how did that kind of develop?
It took a while, man. Like just, just getting in the pro game, I think coming from college specifically, it's just such a different game. College isn't as technical. And MLS, everybody's fast, everybody's strong, like the game just moves a lot faster than what I was
Yeah.
used to. So it took me a little minute to, just be able to adjust and catch my breath when I'm getting home from training. Like I'm laid out. I'm just watching Netflix and that's my day, and I get through the next day, So I think probably like the first 5 months of my rookie year it was like that. And I think again, you have those moments where like it starts to click a little bit more and the game slows down more in your head.
Yeah.
And, you're it just becomes more natural. And I think when that happens, it just allows you to kind of spread your focus a bit more, right?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you that, because I think a lot of people's perception, there aren't many pro athletes out there. Most of the people listening to this podcast are not pro athletes or don't really know much about pro athletes.
Right.
And maybe the common perception is pro athletes, they've got a lot of time on their hands, right? They work out a few days, they've got a game, and it's a few hours and got all this time on your hands. And
Absolutely.
that may or may not be true. I guess it depends on what you do. But you're probably physically exhausted a lot of the time, aren't you?
Absolutely. I think that's one of, the main things, like, you have the rest of your day, but recovery is, equally as important, if not more important than, what you're doing within the hours of training. Right. So it's not just all like, oh, I have all this time in my hands, what can I do? For sure, there's a lot more elements to it. With that, like I am a person that really values balance. And I think, up until, I was playing, always had school, right? Always had friends, always had, something to balance that life. I've been playing soccer my whole life. So I wanted to get to a point where I can catch up. And, it got to a point where I, was comfortable enough to have that balance again. That was the goal.
Yeah. For me personally, my first year, I was still just kind of riding a high of like living the dream. Like it was just cool. The fact that you could go play soccer, get paid, and then like the rest of your day, big chilling. But after that first year, that wore off and it was no longer that cool. It was kind of just, that was your job and you knew what you needed to do. And then for me, it was like, okay, I know how to rest my legs, but my brain is really bored. Like my brain is getting really bored. And it took me that second year, I tried finding other avenues to express myself, be productive. Like I started working with a life coach. I was like networking with people in like venture capital. I was trying to figure out what to do with this time. And little by little, I was figuring out what I didn't want to do. Like I had like coffee with a couple of people at this VC place, and I thought it was just like a chat, and it turned into, they were interviewing me for an internship. And I was like, what is going on right now? Like I did not feel prepared for this. And like, exactly. And I never heard from them again. Like, obviously it didn't go great. I mean, I wasn't prepared for it, so obviously it didn't go great, but like I was slowly figuring out what I didn't want to do. And eventually that landed me to doing some modeling stuff. And then that landed me to being a part of People on Mars, the creative studio. And it's this process of like, you're not gonna hit the right thing right away, but it's a process of figuring out what you don't want to do. Sometimes it's going to lead you to what you do want to do. And I'm still kind of refining that, but day by day, it's figuring out what you don't want to do. And that's leading you to what you do want to do. And I'm sure you kind of went through a similar process in that. At what point did you start to develop Creavalle and kind of create your own brand? And was like, oh, I really want to make pieces to express myself. And I feel like I have the bandwidth to do this.
It's probably maybe towards the end of my second year.
Pretty early.
I think, I was just having these different conversations with my cousin, and he was like, you need to take advantage of these places you're seeing, and like kind of almost document your perspective. Like not a lot of people get to live this life. So like I started shooting photography, and just like kind of having that as a platform to kind of show my perspective, and that would go with the apparel. And I remember we were getting set to have our first pop-up in Houston, and I got traded, which was one of the best things that happened to the brand, I think, because I think my perspective was very narrow at the time. Yeah. And sure, we would have had a start and a starting place, but I think moving to Toronto, like I think it really reshaped my viewpoint and my perspective. But kind of even backtracking to that, I think you mentioned Kalen. He was a kind of a big part in it. Like he introduced me to these guys at this boutique called The Classroom. Okay. And they had really fire brands that I liked at this time, like North Projects and Our Legacy, and like kind of these niche kind of brands that weren't everywhere, and I was really surprised to find in Houston, actually. And I would just start hanging out there a lot, and really started tailoring my taste, and seeing again what I didn't like and what I did like, and like, oh, like I could make that better, and I think that kind of led inadvertently to creating this brand, and wanting to express myself, and like creating things that weren't necessarily there for me, my perspective. And yeah, just kind of carried on with that.
Yeah. How did you develop your design skills? Because was that self-taught, or is that something you learned in school? Because I'm still struggling. I have to outsource a lot of my design, and that's frustrating. And I think having the ability to do your own designs really is empowering for some of the stuff that you're able to do. And I fuck with your designs also. So how did you develop that, and kind of, was that a hurdle at any point, or were you always having that ability?
Nah, man. I think out the gate, my cousin, he was the one that had Illustrator on his computer. I think he had like a bootleg torrent or something of it back when you could do that, and I just had a marker and paper, and be like, I was drawing. I can't draw, by the way, but I printed out some type, made some changes to it with my Sharpie, and I was like, yo, like, get this for us. Yeah. And he did what he did, and and it was kind
of. Did you start out with t-shirts? This is t-shirts.
Yeah, Warren? This is with a t-shirt. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. We did 2 logos first. Just said Creavalle in different type. The first one was actually based off of Nipsey Hussle's Crenshaw script. Oh. We turned that into Creavalle, and that was cool. And from there, we're like, no, we need something original, right? And then we made what became our 3 triangles logo. So with that, all the back and forth that we had, I was like, I need to be able to like execute it myself if I have an idea. Like, I don't want to be relying on anybody to get what's in my head out. Especially if it's not super complicated, right? And that just kind of led me to trial and error with Illustrator.
Yeah, I think I need to make that purchase.
Yeah, probably.
So could be with the Marathon Minute account.
Okay, it's a business write-off, man. Hey,
yeah, there you go.
Exactly. Exactly.
So you start designing with your cousin, shirts in around 2014. You're now playing for the Toronto organization.
Yes. Yep. 2014. I think we already had the shirts made by the time I got to Toronto, because like I said, we were about to have a pop-up for them. Got traded.
Yeah. What happened to the pop-up?
We just didn't have it.
Just called it off.
It popped down.
Yeah. About that.
Nice.
I think we ended up having it in the off season instead. Okay. And yeah, I think is that 2014 or 2015?
I know you got traded to Toronto in 2014.
Yeah. So I think we had our first pop-up in Atlanta during that offseason. That's where I'm from. That's where my cousin lived. And I got to partner with my guy Ashton Morgan up in Toronto. Him and some other homies came down for it, and he was helping on the brand as well. And we had a gallery, and we had, like, I don't know, 4 different iterations of our really shitty shirt.
I mean, do you look back at your first line and say, that was a first line, that was a starter kit?
Yeah, I mean,
somewhere
wasn't great.
It's not great at all. I mean, I'm super proud for doing it and putting it out there. I always say, like, you can't be afraid to grow in front of people. But
facts.
I look back, I'm like, I wouldn't want to retro this, like, put it out again.
Yeah.
Well, not that many people score goals their first game, right? So
exactly, So I still do look back at it, fondly, but nah, it was kind of trash. So
well, I just have to ask you, I mean, having your name on a shirt, which is your line, and your first line, were you a little nervous about the pop-up and people coming in and there are hits and misses, right, in life, but were you worried about, boy, this is no one's liking my stuff? Or how were you what was your emotional reaction to having people kind of looking at your stuff and hopefully they buy it?
I wasn't I didn't feel that pressure as far as, like, especially with having my name on it. I think especially at the beginning, I wanted to almost, like, distance myself from the brand, like, like, not even tell people that was my last name, for the longest, I didn't have my real name on my Instagram. I didn't, like, I wanted Creavalle to be just what it was, like, just, you didn't know, like, it was a person. It just sounds like something cool,
It does.
Don't take advantage of this good name we were given.
Facts.
So, I didn't feel the pressure from that side. I did, like, feel the pressure, like, what if people aren't, what if they're not messing with it, But I think at that point in time, taste was pretty simple. And, it was received well within, our circles, and, it was a building block. I knew it wasn't going to be the best thing we ever did. I think we leveled up pretty quickly as far as the quality, because we knew what we liked, right? And what we were making, that wasn't it. Like, I think
like quality shit.
Yeah, we had, higher taste in what we put out. And it's like, okay, like, we got this, let's put this onto something nice. Let's go and, find a fabric we like, a cut that we like, make our own stuff. And that was the next point for us.
Yeah. So as this is growing, you're leveling up your merchandise, you're leveling up your design, you're getting to express yourself more through this brand. At the same time, you're still playing professional soccer and in the MLS, and you're playing, you're contributing, you're part of good teams. So what was your relationship like with soccer as a game, as this brand is continuing to build, as kind of your passion to doing some other things outside of the game? What was that balance like as you continue to level up this brand, and at the same time, you're continuing to grow as a player? What was that relationship like with the game as you were kind of figuring out some of these other things about you and your passions?
It was a balance, man, because I mean, my career, it was kind of a bit of a roller coaster, right? So it started off, really well in Houston.
I feel that.
Went to MLS Cup my first year, and I started playing at the back half of the year. And I remember getting the MLS Cup, and they didn't dress me, and I was like, yo, like, fuck this, like, this is why, and but I took it in stride, and I was like, we're here, or I'm here, and we have a good team. Be back, next year. I was, playing regularly. I was starting, and we ended up, losing in the Eastern Conference Championship to the eventual champs. But, I felt like we should have won. But, I was like, things are looking up. And then after that year, I had surgery on both of my knees. And from that point, like it was just very up and down. It was
Yeah.
kind of like learning to, play again.
Yeah.
And I remember coming back. I was, starting to get in good form. Got, traded to Toronto, and it was an interesting point because I felt like, I was really building something in Houston with that team, but it was nice because, Toronto really fought for me. They really wanted me, they were like, no, we're only doing this deal for Warren. But I get there and that same group that fought for me, they get sacked.
Out of your control.
Yeah,
business.
And I think, just kind of balancing that with, still like not really the same player I was yet, pre-surgery. I think, it was kind of tough. And I think even, the new staff that came in, I think they had a lot of belief in me as well. And, they converted me to a right back. And, it was cool for a little bit, but I think I'm always like, that's not it for me. I'm a guy that wants to be in the center of the park, and, just that's where I'm most comfortable. And, so those things, like at that point in my career, I was like, footy's not, it's not going well. Let me lean into life first, like just like enjoying the city, and creating. Like I think for me, both of those go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And like again, I really value that balance. And if this isn't going well, like at least I have this that's picking me up, right? And that's what it was. As the creativity was going up, so it was like footy was doing what it does, and I just kind of went with it.
Were you able to check out the Toronto fashion scene and kind of check out the differences between that and sort of the either Houston or the East Coast of US?
Yeah, absolutely. I lived in a really cool neighborhood, and there were a lot of different boutiques around me. And I ended up hanging out, in some of those shops as well. Becoming friends with, people in that space. And again, it was starting to, inform my interest and my taste. And I just drew a lot from it.
Yeah. We talked, me and you talked at length about this in that Zoom a while ago, kind of about the specifics of when you decided to retire, the terms that it happened, and kind of what was next. I just want to kind of share with the listener or the viewer on YouTube. We're on YouTube as well, so just a heads up. You're looking right.
You probably would have wanted to know that earlier, huh?
Yeah, I should.
Okay.
Heads up. But like, I think, we talked about this, how you could have kept playing somewhere else. I'm assuming, but like we've talked about, and like some people know, once you get to the professional level, it's no longer just a game. It's no longer just going out playing soccer for fun. It's much more than that. It's a lot of other shit that you have to go through. For someone who might not know, can you just talk a little bit about kind of the point where you made that decision, or how things transpired where you're like, I think I'm ready to move on to someone else? And as much as people think professional sports is like the greatest thing ever, you get paid to play a fun game and this and that, it can be at times, trust me, it's great, but at times very, very different. And so can you just explain a little bit about your experience with that dynamic, kind of towards the end of your career? And then is it public information what your new role is?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about, those last couple of years in that kind of transition. And then I would love to talk a little bit about what you're doing now.
Yeah, for sure. I think the last, few years of my career, I think it was always something that I was thinking about. What, I could be doing next. What are my interests? What is sustainable to do every day, day in, day out? And, I would have good years, I would have bad years. So again, things were up and down. And that really kind of plays with your mental, right? So I remember one year, I think it was 2016. I had a really, really good season. And the next year I wasn't playing. And I remember like there were points where I wasn't dressing, and it was like I literally felt like I had to make it look wild. Like I had to be like top 3 in training just to dress. Like you look crazy, look like you have something against me if I'm not in this team. You know what I'm saying? Like that was my mindset.
Yep.
And I always prided myself on how I trained, how I played, and but there's a grind that comes with that. And then you get these opportunities, playing again, and then boom, injury. And then, that kind of became a recurring thing, right? So I think once that became cyclical, I think that really started pushing me to like, all right, like what am I doing,
Right.
Because it weighs on you, it weighs on your team, your coach. It's like they can't trust you, you're getting stressed from that, and it's it's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
Everything's up in there. You don't know if you're traveling sometimes, you're trying to get fit for games, and and I'm trying to plan like pop-up shops around this stuff, and that's uncertain, and like
yeah, it's tough.
It is, and don't get me wrong, like you said, like there's been amazing highlights throughout my career. Like I think I've gotten to see so much stuff. I've gotten to go so many different places and hang with friends that I never would have gotten to, had I not been in their city, and things of that nature. Meet a lot of different people, has connected me with people like yourself, and I think it's just it's given me so much, right? But there is that that tough side that you think about how long do you want to be in it. And for me, I think coming down to like the last 2 years, like I was like, all right, like I think I'd be okay, like with that. Like I feel like I've gotten enough out of this game to be able to walk away and not exactly know what I want to do, but know that I gave it my all. You know what I'm saying? Like, and just being okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of a certain fulfillment on the soccer side of your life that, what, I had a good soccer career, right?
Mm-hmm.
I gave it my all, and I've had some great experiences, and it's sort of time to change the horizon to something, next chapter.
Yeah,
absolutely. And at the end of that, 2020 season, I actually won like my first like real hardware. We won, Eastern Conference Championship, but like a supporter shield, that's the whole league, right?
Yeah.
So, that was a cool way to kind of go out. But I just remember when we won it, and as cool as it was, like it faded really quickly.
Yeah.
Like it didn't feel as like monumental as like when I was, first in the game, and like, that was, my everything. Like, all right, I need these W's. Not that I wasn't a competitor, but like once we got it, I was like, I was tight, like
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It hit a little different.
Yeah, so that really, pushed me on. I was like, yeah, I'll be straight.
Yeah. And then so Philly didn't pick up your option, right? And then you were kind of in this place where, like I said, you probably could have explored your options and maybe played somewhere else. But you also had, all these other things that you're interested in, and this kind of fulfillment with the idea that I can be doing something else and potentially, being happier or being more peaceful doing something else. And so if I went back and reread that IG caption you had, I forget what it was, a few weeks or a month ago or something, and that is some real shit. I encourage anyone listening to this to go back to whatever I forget if it was just a new year post or something, but like the way you phrased that was like poetic, in that you retired not really knowing what was next, but you had this like not crazy, but you had an undeniable faith that you were going to be good, So could you just talk a little bit about that mindset, knowing that like I'm done with soccer and I'm going to be doing something else. I don't know what I'm going to be doing exactly, but I'll be good.
Yeah, no,
Like
absolutely.
that's a very powerful mindset. And I think a lot of people are afraid to sometimes to let go of what they have without having something next.
Mhm.
But it's a powerful thing to have that faith that something really powerful or great will come. And I'm confident that did come. And we could talk about that a little bit after.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, man, I think, it's for me, it was really just locking into this mindset, right? I think God has shown me enough times, like, of the things that I need to see. So kind of jumping back to, what I was talking about in college, right? I was on a full ride, and that was the only full ride that was offered to me going into school, right? So didn't know if another one was going to come around, but at that point I was like, nah, like I got to do it, right?
Yeah.
So that was one time where it worked out. Leading up into my career, and I'm having these different activations. I'm having pop-ups. People are showing love for different things. The creativity's been well received. I'm getting these different opportunities to work at larger scale, whether it's been, the league and Adidas, or, branding for different companies. So now he's shown me that, that side is possible, right? So I think for me, it was just tapping back into that, like, I gotta go for it. You feel this urge to kind of make that jump, not knowing what you're gonna land on, but knowing, like, hey, like, I gotta have that faith.
Yeah.
And it took a minute, right? I think, like, I didn't know what it was gonna look like. I didn't know, how soon, or, like, what my lifestyle would look like. I jumped straight into the freelance game, creating for brands, brand identity, logos, content, you name it, right? And it was all right, like, it wasn't bad for the most part, but I think there's other aspects in my life that I had to consider as well.
Right.
One, stability. I have a family, I have a wife, I have a daughter, and I think you start to build your life around certain things that, not that you take for granted, but have become, kind of staples in your life, right?
Right.
Um, and it became something that I kind of wanted to, be able to provide for family. Well, that's, the realities of insurance, right? Health insurance, like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be, on the tail. Like, if my young daughter gets sick, or, my wife gets sick, like, what do we look like, just not having, solid insurance, right? And so those are things that, start to think about. And, I think my mindset started to pivot away from just kind of the freelance grind. So, like, all right, like, I need something more stable. I need something more defined. And I think that's another thing that I didn't really realize, how much I crave structure.
Yeah.
Which really took me by surprise, because I look at myself as a free-spirited individual,
Yeah.
but there's always been an inherent structure built into my life. Somebody's always told me where to be, at what time, what days, and with the rest of my time, I can just, like, freestyle it, right?
Exactly. It was like a perfect balance, because
Yeah,
soccer created that structure, and then you had the freedom outside of
you're
that to
able to
do
break
whatever.
away from it, right? And
Yep.
I think, if everything's a freestyle, like, what do you like? It looks a lot different.
Yeah, it can get a little chaotic.
Yeah, so that's something that I, was kind of looking for, with what I want to do next as well. And literally, I think through all the different, opportunities and connections that I made, last year, all of that kind of led up to, the opportunity that I was able to accept, which is now being an art director in an ad agency.
Let's go.
Wow,
Congratulations.
That's amazing. That is really quite an accomplishment.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it.
Particularly for a guy who can't draw.
It's wild, right? Hope they don't see this, but yeah, man.
Well, how did that come to fruition? How'd that fall into place? That's a big deal.
Yeah, again, and I think I might have told Max's story, you know, like I it was just connecting, and you know, you just never know where these connections lead to. So
True.
throughout the year, you know, working here led me to meet with this person who put me in touch with this person who, you know, offered me an opportunity to work, or, you know, put me in touch with another person. And maybe we talked about something that could work out, but for now, you know, I want to put you in this group chat. And, you know, once I was in this group chat, you know, I got introed in there. My current boss now reached out and was like, yo, like, you got some time to connect? And I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm on this connection thing. We'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, ended up getting to work for a month with MLS in the design department. And, you know, that's based in New York. My company now is based in New York. So I was there for a week. And the person that I connected with in that WhatsApp group, I was able to connect with them in person and really chop it up. And, you know, that, you know, led to the opportunity.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of a,
Yeah.
effect, you know, just very, you know.
The pieces fell into place. Sometimes they do, right?
Absolutely,
And it's great when they do, when those connections, you know, the puzzle pieces start to fit.
Yeah. I feel like as long as you continue to move forward, you know, like every day, whether it's very small incremental movement forward, as long as you're not just standing still or moving backwards, like eventually the right door will open, you know?
Yeah, man. I really believed in, you know, kind of, you know, trusting the process. Like if I'm putting in the work, I'm putting in the hours, I'm putting, you know, I'm going out of the way, I'm making connections, I'm, you know, talking to people. You know, you keep doing the right thing. It's just like training, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna pay off.
Yeah. And so how's it going? How are we liking it? I do remember seeing something about how when you started Creavalle, that was kind of like playing five-a-side, and that like it's super fun, a lot of joy, you know. Is this new role right now, does it feel like you're still playing five-a-side, or has it gotten it to the point where it's like, fuck, this is business? this is work.
Absolutely not. Nah, this is back in the stadium. I'm back in the stadium. Nah, you know, it's a client driven business. So, you know, it's not five-a-side at all. You know, it's not me hanging out with my boys playing. Like it's business, right? Which is okay. I think for me, you know, it's a huge learning curve. Just one, not being in a corporate setup, you know, ever in my life. You know, I had a taste of it, you know, working with MLS, you know, but even that was, you know, to a lesser degree. So I think it's about learning, you know, as much as I can, soaking up as much as I can, and, you know, just kind of, you know, I'm thankful because I have room to grow into this role, right? I don't think, you know, I'm necessarily the on paper the best person for this job, you know, but one, I had, you know, person that believed in me, you know, and, you know, God, you know, if God said you qualified, right? So I go with that, and I take that confidence in with me, and think about the other new beginnings that I've had in my life, where it was like super hard, you know, and you know, I got to catch my breath, and, you know, my head is spinning, but, you know, I adjusted, and, you know, was able to kind of, again, find that balance. So
yeah,
I'm still in the early stages of it. But nah, man, I'm super, you know, optimistic about this opportunity.
That's incredible.
I'm constantly asking this question of young folks who we interview, who tell me what their job title is. And the follow-up question I'm always asking is, what do you do? I mean, tell me, I understand your title, but that's all I understand. So what do you do?
It's a great question. You know, I'm still figuring out what's up now.
Did I just hear you say that's a great question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. So what as the art director, what do you do? What's sort of your day look like and your job duties? I hate to ask such a kind of mechanical question, but I'm curious.
No. It is a good question because I feel like those, a lot of titles, are the creative director, like they're a bit ambiguous and they can be specific to whatever, company or space you're in, right? But on paper, it's being, responsible for the look and feel of, whatever campaign, content, making sure things are consistent with the brand identity, and it's not really much more than that philosophically. The day to day, looks a lot more tedious than that, a lot less, kind of glamorous because there are the realities of it being a client, facing business, and there's there's presentations, you're building decks, and you want to be able to present your work in the most beautiful way, and be able to have the client see it, and before it actually happens, right? And it's kind of tough to show you something that's not there yet. So I think that's what we're responsible for. And I have a copywriting partner, so together we're able to kind of craft stories and push them out into the world. So that's what my day-to-day looks like.
That makes sense to me. Does that, you got it?
Yes, it makes more sense for sure. Thanks, Warren. I appreciate that. I know.
No doubt.
Okay. I just have one kind of last question and then an ending segment. Is that cool with time for you?
Yeah.
Okay. I see that you and your wife, I believe, have a home goods line, and you're doing like a home renovation journey. I honestly may be buying a mug or something from there shortly after we get off this call because I'm in need. Could you just yes, that one, clean.
I saw that online.
Can you just talk a little bit about that endeavor and what that's like, what inspired that, and then we have a fun ending segment. But I would love to learn a little more about this home goods line because I fuck with it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, man. I think the pandemic has messed up my timelines. I think it was 2 years ago, where my wife and I are both pretty aesthetically driven people and really value the spaces that we do life in. When we got engaged, we moved in together and we found an apartment in Philly, and we really made it our own and decorated it the way we wanted to, and it came together really well. And that kind of was the foundation of the idea around it. Hindsight at least. And she has her own stuff going on. She's got a brand, she's got a blog, and I have my own stuff going on with Creavalle and whatnot. And it was kind of just a meeting of those two. Nice. And it's called Coffee with Creavalle. And we were doing Airbnb in New York, and we were creating these spaces. And I think the home goods side really was meant to kind of support that, right? So whatever Airbnb spaces we had, we wanted to have another lane of revenue that we're able to drive people to. This house is now an advertisement for this, or we're able to stage it with our own stuff.
That's smart.
And smell, it'll smell like how we wanted to smell through these candles, and things like that. So that's what started our renovation journeys. And we bought a house in Houston and we bought a house in Philly, and the pandemic hit. So that kind of tripped up a lot of what we were working on as far as what renovation looked like, what Airbnb looked like, the model of it. People are traveling, and it drastically shifted what we were able to do, right? And so, long story short, we were able to get the Houston renovation done. My wife worked on most of that while I was in preseason one year. And it came out really nice, and again, it got some traction, but boom, pandemic. Opens back up, boom, pandemic, and we decided to sell it. And then the Philly house that we bought, literally walking distance from our apartment, got held up with permits for a year because of the pandemic. They were around to shut people down, but not open to give you permits. So that was a super long journey, and we ended up doing a good portion of the renovation ourselves. And that, and no, not good for us. Bad, very bad for us. We over there having our 5-month-old in this.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that sounds
that'll test a marriage.
While we're painting.
Oh my goodness.
Well, your marriage survived that. It can probably survive anything.
We were definitely in training camp then. So but as far as the brand, I think a lot of it is that to kind of be on pause, just due to the all of that was happening at once. Like I'm just starting freelance and stuff. I'm not playing anymore, so we have a newborn, so it was 1,000 different things happening at once. So it's kind of getting back to the point where we want to create stability again, kind of hit those checkpoints again.
Can I ask Warren one last question?
Don't ask me.
Okay.
Ask him.
Yeah, Warren, if you have time. There was a night in July of 2020. I'm going to take it back to July of 2020.
Oh my God.
MLS is back Cup.
Okay.
There was a night in July of 2020 where I think 170 MLS players are standing on a field, all wearing the same T-shirt. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So I remember leading up to the MLS is back tournament. That was one of the most wild, parts of my career. Obviously, with the pandemic, our CBA being canceled because of that, an agreed upon CBA, but not yet been ratified. It was, they're talking about a lockout. I'm like, oh man, like I'm not gonna have money to, pay my rent, pay the mortgage on this house we just got. Like it's like, it was super, super traumatic. And that coupled with what was going on in the rest of the world, particularly in the United States, with Black people being killed, literally in the streets on the internet, to be broadcasted, and without any repercussions. It was just a super trying time. And a group of young brothers in the MLS, we were able to kind of come together, be a soundboard for each other, and really just talk about what we needed as people. Right. And that, we elevated to, all right, what do we need from the league that, is supposed to be taking care of us? What do we need from the world? What do we want our message to be? What do we, need from society? And the first kind of message that we had with that was these shirts during our demonstration in Orlando. And I got the opportunity to create those. It was a really intentional decision by the group as far as wanting to have, Black people every step of the way in this thing, right? And we're like, we don't really need to look any further. Hey, Warren, like you design stuff, like do this, So it was a really cool, show of solidarity, and a really strong moment for not just the Black people league, but the league in general.
No, I remember watching it, and it was extremely powerful, and the shirts you did were incredible. So hats off to you.
Yeah, that's quite a moment, I think. I remember that moment.
I'm glad you brought
it's
that
a goosebump moment.
I think that is a good moment to end on, to move into our ending segment. It's very quick. It's called What Are You Eating, Reading, Preaching, and Plugging? So just 4 kind of quick hitters. First one is, what are you eating? So is there anything you're chefing up at the crib? Maybe some takeout in Houston you want to share with the world? Just some food that is speaking to you as of late.
Bro, I mean, we've been having pizza for like the past, I feel like 2 weeks. It's been wild.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
We had Chick-fil-A for breakfast. You know,
Damn,
I got
jealous.
it before 10:30. That was amazing.
Let's
And
go.
I've really been on a truffle kick.
Oh,
You know, I
let's
haven't made
go.
anything with it yet. My wife literally just got me some I think truffle butter from the store, but
Yeah.
I'll let you know how it goes.
Okay. Yeah. Keep us posted. That's good though. That's a nice mix there. Okay. What are you reading? Is there a book,
Oh
article,
man, Mac, you
something?
know I can't read, bro. You know I can't read.
Okay, you don't have maybe just something
Book on tape.
something with words
Mhm.
that you would like to share.
Nah,
Or,
I got I got two things. One is this book my dad gave me a long time ago. I just picked it back up a few weeks ago to kind of finish it up. It's called Eat That Frog, talking about you know, how to be the most productive you can in your days.
nice.
And you know, how to get the most out of your days. And two, my wife got me a couple of Kinfolk magazines for Christmas, and I haven't had one in a while. So reading through those, and those are always super inspiring and like to see these different perspectives and you know on life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's been a good read.
Dope.
Okay.
It was Eat That Frog, the first one.
Eat that
Okay.
frog.
We're gonna check that out. Okay. Third one. What are you preaching? Is there like any lasting words of wisdom, a motto, a saying, or just kind of some advice to the people out there on their journey? I mean, you've dropped bars all episodes, so it doesn't have to be crazy.
Man, I just feel like you know the world has been in a really weird place, and you know it's a lot of it is about surviving and advancing, right? Until you can get you know kind of back on your feet and like you know something to look that resembles a bit more normal, and you know even adjusting to a new normal. So me, you know, especially the past year has been about surviving and advancing.
Let's go. Survive, advance, and adjust.
Uh,
I like it. Okay, last one. What are you plugging? Is there, I mean, you got quite a few things to plug. You know, you got your own brand, you got a home goods brand, you got this new art director role, you know, you got your hands in a lot of things.
You know, I
Anything?
wish we had like a release for you or something, you know what I'm saying? Something that I could tease. Nothing is really coming out right now, you know. I could, you know.
Hey, you don't have to tease something, but just where can people support you? You know?
Okay, yeah. Online at Creavalle.co. My Instagram, you know, holla at me.
Yep.
Malik _ LeBeau. Underscore Creavalle as well if you're trying to talk to the brand.
Yep.
My wife's Instagram at the Coffee Break, Coffee COFFEY.
Yep.
And you know, see, follow our family journey, and that's what we got going on right now.
Well, I checked out your Creavalle brand in doing the research for you. You've got nice stuff. I mean,
I appreciate that, man.
It's not really, it wouldn't look good on me, but it'll look good on
look. No,
hey,
I saw you. I saw you in the tees. Okay, I saw you in the tees. You were rocking it. Okay.
Okay.
He likes to sell himself short on his fashion sense.
Well, then I may have to go to the website and make a purchase, and maybe next podcast I'll be featuring a Creavalle garment of some sort.
And I'll be sipping out of a mug from
nice
my domicile.
Yeah, but I do like your stuff. It's a nice clean look. I like it. It's nice.
Okay, we've already gone over time, but again, Warren, I really appreciate this conversation. I appreciate just the time that you've given me prior to this podcast and this podcast. You're someone who I look up to in a lot of ways. I feel like what you do inspires me, inspires people like myself who have similar interests as us, and just keep doing what you're doing, man. I'm really excited to see you in this new role, and sky's the limit for everything that you're doing. So thank you for your time, sharing your story, and yeah, we'll be supporting you, and hopefully we get to link up in person at some point somewhere. But regardless, we appreciate this connection for sure.
No, man,
Yeah.
I appreciate y'all having me on, man. I appreciate the conversation, and taking it, different directions that I haven't got to think about in a little bit. So nah, man, I really respect what you guys are doing. I'm inspired by it as well. So if I could be a resource, you just want to holler at me, like, hey, you got my number, and we'll stay in contact.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Warren. Let me echo Max's thoughts. Appreciate you've been generous with your time and more importantly, your insights. So very much appreciated. And when we talk to Kalen Carr, we're going to find out the real story about you. We're going to get some inside dope. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. And take care of that 2-year-old. Take care of your daughter.
Let's go.
It's better and better.
Thank you, bro. Go enjoy your Saturday.
Will do. We headed to the zoo.
Nice.
Okay.
All right, bro.
All right,
see you, Warren.